What's going on? It's Chris, the Dating Doc, and this is going to be a Dating Doc Raw episode. If you're new to the channel, you're trying to figure out what is Dating Doc Raw versus the other videos. Well, this is the realest version you can get of me, okay? You can call it the mean version of me. This is pure real talk. We talk about dating. We talk about movements that affect modern dating and everything in between. This one's for the ladies, okay? This is going to be part tip and part reflection. Okay, raw tip, right? I don't know if that sounds right, but listen up. Ladies, this whole episode, listen up, it's all about the power to say, you know what, babe, you're right. Or simply, you're right. Okay, if you get easily offended when you're held accountable, you are not a strong, independent woman. Okay, I don't want to hear all this, I'm strong and independent, but you get easily offended when you know you're in the wrong and you get called out on it. Okay, now before I go on, it's easy. It's up to you. You can easily assume this is mansplaining or you want to go for the quick, well, men do it too. But I'm asking you to listen to this video before you jump to that, okay? If you are dependent on your emotions, you're not independent. Independent means you know how to be flexible and not fall into the same mental pitfalls of overreacting or not being able to take advice or being corrected even when it's justified. All right? Not being coachable. I'm going to talk about this. The difference between men and women is that the tragedy of this is that historically, due to perceived or actual patriarchy in the workplace, family history, or relationship, women have had to outprove themselves. All right? Men have not historically been oppressed as a gender. Now, some could argue that since the advent of child support in the courts and divorce court, we got that. But holistically, it's women that came around to having the right to vote. It's women that came around to being able to drive in Saudi Arabia, et cetera, right? So with that narrative, the confusion is that instead of a man setting his boundaries or expressing his frustrations in a relationship, it is seen as controlling. Or if a man is trying to say, hey, look, I don't really like this, it's almost like you're trying to get the woman to behave. At least that's a perception that some woman will look at. And again, this is past generalizations that both sides have about women, right? That they're supposed to stay in their place, stay in their lane, and not argue. So then there's been a hyper correction, right? There's been a little bit too much of a correction where women now are like, I don't want to hear it. And I'm right, never wrong. Men, on the other hand, have not historically been oppressed. They have not historically been oppressed by women. So there's not as much of this hypersensitivity to feedback. At worst, they don't listen, or we're stoic to the feedback and adjust later, right? We normally, it goes one ear out the other, or we hear a woman's advice or what the feedback is, and we may apply pressure and change. That might happen 5 minutes later or 5 months later down the road. That's a whole another topic. Bottom line, female splaining is not trending for a reason, right? It's always the men that get that. With all this said, hypocrisy. Okay, don't be a hypocrite. Hypocrisy is the opposite of values such as integrity and honesty. You can't expect honesty and the man to handle your independent ways if you get easily offended. All right, this is similar to if someone overweight in the military was telling me I need to run more, and all of a sudden I call them out on their hypocrisy, right? Because they're overweight, they run slower, they don't run at all. They get mad and go tell someone. That's hypocrisy. Matter of fact, it's cowardice and obnoxious behavior combined. And that's what's happening in dating. This is part of that cancel culture, right? It's cowardice and obnoxious behavior combined. That's what's happening. But if you're able to say, you know what, you're right, that's so powerful as a couple or even in the dating world. However, don't say, you know what, you're right, and then good luck to you. That's passive aggressiveness. That's not conducive to to dating dynamics, right? You don't, if someone says, you know, you're looking for a Christian man, but you got all these pictures and videos of you twerking, and all of a sudden the woman says, you know what, I don't care, and then they unmatch. That's hypocrisy, right? That's not being able to communicate in a healthy way. And what happens is many women are getting comfortable in their own pride that it becomes normalized. That becomes your normalized communication style. You're like, okay, I'm always going to be right, and I'm never going to admit when I'm wrong. And if someone calls me out on it, I'm offended. No, you don't do that. Instead, realize that any partnership and or relationship relies on holding both sides accountable. But at the same time, it's important that you hold space for respect and those good vibes. You don't want to always correct someone in such a mean way or a condescending way, or where they're always wrong. You got to hold respect for the verbal, nonverbal respect and good vibes. That's the whole purpose of it. Okay, so what do I mean by good vibes? It's to remember the purpose. You're trying to build the other individual, which in turn builds the relationship. Okay, think of yourself as a team and you're playing this game called life. And if something wrong happens, you're able to say, oh, you got to stay inbounds. Okay, let's walk a little bit to the right. Let's walk a little bit to the left so we're not out of bounds. Or let's shoot our shot and make sure we make points in this relationship. Now, if either side gets offended because they don't want to make points, then they're not coachable, right? They're not going to want to really be in a relationship. They're just kind of going through the motions. You don't want that. That's why the goal is never to like keep a score or one up each other, right? You're not trying to outcompete each other. And this is just bottom line where you can message this throughout the relationship. You can say, hey, look, baby, you did this wrong, but understand, I still care about you, or, a little ass grab or something, right? So you just did the good vibrations with the correction. Another powerful technique is just giving them that eye contact and the smile. Okay. Just give them that little smart ass look and the eye contact. That alone knows it's a reminder when that hypocrisy is coming up. For example, if I'm talking to my lady and I said, hey, chill out. I need my little break from work. And all of a sudden they're about to get defensive, right? Instead of being like, okay, he needs his time. I got it. When they're about to get defensive, I just give them that smile to show them, hey, I still appreciate you, but I give them that eye contact, like, come on now, right? Eye contact and smile. That alone becomes a reminder for when that hypocrisy is coming up. Again, what's happening? Okay, I get it. All men, some men do it too. The thing about women is that you develop this kind of layer of pride, the pride layer. Think of it as an extra layer on your mental skin. Okay, it's quite opposite from thick skin because the pride layer bounces anything off of pride. Okay, anything that's thrown your way, you're going to bounce it off from pride, right? Really toxic pride, right? Obnoxious pride. It's like a man gives you attention, pride. A man doesn't give you attention, pride. A man tries to communicate you in a healthy way, pride. A man communicates with you in a toxic way, bounce back with pride. Okay. That's it. That's the issue right there, is that told you should work out. If I told a woman, bounce off of that pride layer, you playing too much on your phone and I want you to pay more attention to me, pride layer. Okay. I got it. Men do it too, whatever. But again, focus on admitting when you're being held accountable instead of using this as a throwaway excuse. Instead of the pride or instead of the men do it too, hold place for what you yourself, the person in the mirror, is doing wrong and be able to accept it in order to communicate in a healthy way. Because in the end, you want a relationship. You don't want a partner you argue with. You don't want a mental punching bag, and you don't want to be the mental punching bag. And this whole "they do it too" excuse, that's part of what's causing this whole collective divide. That's why you see these groups sprout up, right? MGTOW, feminists, Raging Red Pillars, et cetera, et cetera. They can relate to one another, right? The Doomers to all these groups. They're causing that divide because they keep using they do it too, instead of looking in the mirror and saying, you know what, we do it too. So in essence, if you can't hold yourself accountable, or you get too emotional all the time, and this one's for the ladies, okay? I can understand some of the time that you get emotional over an argument or being held accountable, but it needs to get to a reasonable, healthy level. If not, you're not going to progress into a healthy relationship. You're not. You have to be both a coach and coachable in a relationship. If not, your partner is going to burn out. And the big thing is, in the end, when one side burns out and the other person doesn't have the energy to carry them, then you lost your relationship. So hit that smash, like, subscribe. Let me know what you think about this one. Dating Doc signing out.